Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you guys about the Nashville school shooting that happened this past week. So there's an important detail that is emerging out of this. The whole thing's still under investigation, but from two separate sources I have heard that the school shooter originally planned to target a different school, but in the process of planning this thing out, learned that that school had a higher level of security, and instead went to the other school which had a lower level of security. Okay, so the information, this is the thing, this is the important piece of news that I think that we need to put on blast. Okay, this is the thing that the media is going to try and cover. Okay, there's two schools here, right? One had a high level of security, the other one had a low level of security, right? The lower level security school, there's 6 people dead here, right? There's 3 adults and 3 children that are dead. Meanwhile, the higher level security school, everybody's still alive over there. Okay, so having armed security here saves lives, here costs lives. Okay, so this is something that we need to put on blast, circulate. Now this is in line with the report that came out after the Parkland shooting. Okay, so after the Parkland shooting, there was apparently a study done, and it concluded that the best option was to arm the school staff. That they were there, they had the most incentive to protect themselves, and by virtue of protecting themselves, they're also protecting the students behind them. So they looked at a whole bunch of different options. The option of having, let's say you have armed security at the school, right? Like for example, the school where my kids go to, right? I got a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old in school, about the same age as these other children that got killed. Now my school has security, but from what I understand, they got one armed guard. Okay, so one armed guard by himself is not enough. Okay, because he simply cannot cover enough area. Okay, you need people spread out through the entire school that are armed and trained. Okay, so I mean, you pretty much can't turn the school into a police precinct where you bring all the cops over and basically, you know, situate them throughout the school. I mean, that's not practical. What does make sense is to arm and train some of the school staff that are interested in this, right? That would want to participate in this, and by them protecting themselves, because that's the first thing that's going to kick in. They're going to want to protect themselves. They're going to be protecting the children behind them. Okay, so that's the thing that makes sense. The person that was running this report, that was running this commission, right, originally was against the idea of arming school staff. However, after looking all of the information, he changed his mind. He concluded that this is the only viable option, right? You cannot have enough armed security guards in the school, right? Because again, you would have to pretty much bring the entire precinct over to cover the entire building, right? It's not enough to just have one armed guard at the door, because there's multiple entrances, there's windows. You know, you got to have people throughout the entire building that are trained and armed. Okay, so that didn't make sense. And this idea that some people have of disarming society, that obviously doesn't make sense by simple virtue of the fact that we're not giving up our guns. Okay, the anti-gunners have to accept the fact that, I guess, for the last 15 years, we've been buying guns because because they've been talking about banning them. So if we're buying guns prior to a possible gun ban, we're buying it with the intention of not surrendering it. Okay, so they're never going to get the guns out of society. Okay, so you can't take the guns away. That's completely off the table. You can't fill the school up with cops. Okay, so what are you left with? The only viable option is to allow the school staff to be armed and trained, you know, spread throughout the whole building. They're in the best position to protect themselves and protect children. Okay. Now, aside from that, there's also another piece of interesting information that I think came out of this shooting. I was watching the body camera of the officers moving through the building. Again, they did make some tactical mistakes, but I don't think that this is a team that had worked together. I think that's like 3 separate cops that kind of showed up, so I don't think they had actually trained to do room clearings together. They might have each been individually trained to do room clearings, but they hadn't been trained to operate as a team. Okay, so they're going to make some tactical mistakes. There's going to be some communication errors. I mean, I think that they did, pretty good. They wanted to get to the shooter as quickly as possible. This is a situation where, while this shooter was active in the building, he could have been continually killing more children. So the conclusion that I believe the officers made, that they were willing to risk their own lives with substandard tactics in order to protect the children, which is the correct response. Okay, that is the correct mentality. If it is your goal to put on a badge and protect society, I think you have to be willing to risk your life to protect others. Okay. Now, I don't wear a badge. I'm not willing to do that, right? So I'm not faulting people for not being willing to do that. But what I am saying is that when you put on the badge, right, and you take that oath, you should be willing to risk your life to protect others. That should be the core purpose of the job, rather than to be a tax collector, right? Because a lot of these cops, they're pretty much hired with the purpose of basically writing tickets and raising money for the city. So a lot of cops are hired as tax collectors, and the focus of their training is exactly that: writing tickets. It's not, in tactical training, and because that's not what the job is, right? There's no money in being really good in tactical training. The money that cities collect is from issuing tickets. So the bulk of the training is focused on ticket writing. Okay, so that's another thing that pops up. And now the other thing that stands out watching the body cam footage is, if you look at the guns, there was 3 guns that were, I think, there was probably more guns. I think it was a total like 5 people. But the ones that I saw a shotgun, I saw an AR, and I saw a pistol. Okay, the rifle and the pistol both had optics. Okay, now the optic on the rifle was an LPVO. I think a big window red dot, like an EOTech or a Holosun 510C, big window, 2 MOA dot with a big circle. I think that would have been a better choice for that type of situation, perhaps with a magnifier behind it. But anyway, the LPVO worked. It did the job. But the point there is that no iron sights, optic, right? The guy had an optic on his rifle. He may have had backup sights, but he used the optic. And same thing on the pistol. The person with the pistol, he also had a red dot. He had an optic on his pistol. And one of the things I tell people is that, pistols without optics are antiques. Okay, so that's something that I think kind of stood out. I mean, it's not the first time I've seen cops with red dots on pistols, but it's the first time I've seen it in that type of a situation where they're actively engaged in trying to save their lives and the lives of others. Okay, so that's the things that stood out, right? And I wanted to put that out, and I think that we really need to put on blast the fact that there's a school over here where 6 people are still alive because they had more security, while there's a school over here where 6 people are dead because they had less security. Question is, why the resistance? The resistance, there's only one reason. Basically, the resistance to having armed security is solely for the purpose that it does not fit the agenda, the anti-gun agenda of the Democrats. Okay, they don't want us to have a victory. Okay, that's the only reason why I can see Democrats would be against allowing school staff to be armed and trained. Okay, so it doesn't fit their agenda, doesn't fit what they're trying, their narrative, or what they're trying to sell to everyone. So that's the only reason. Because even if you look at the Parkland report, you have a guy there that started off in his mind with being against the idea of armed school staff, and when he you know, after analyzing all the data, he kind of concluded that's really the only answer. You know, there's really no alternative. That is the only answer. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you all soon.